Queensburgh shopping centre thrown into chaos today after a shooting in a coffee shop. Emergency services responded to a call at around 11:15 this morning. They found 2 men in critical condition with multiple gunshot wounds. The victims, believed to be a businessman and a taxi owner, were rushed to hospital where they remain stable. eNCA's Dasen Thathiah has been on scene. Let's speak to him now. So Dasen, this is a busy shopping mall, the Queensburgh Mall. Quite a dramatic and shocking thing to happen. What do we know about the circumstances and possibly any idea why the shooting would happen?
Yeah, at the outset, Sal, I think all of us can relate to this. When you go into a shopping mall, you tend to let your guard down. You're there to do some shopping or have a meal or have a coffee, like it was in this case. And I think it was no different for anyone else that was there today. So these men, it was a group of them. Police say there were about 6 of them that were sitting at a table at the Mug and Bean there, quite close to the entrance of that mall. And it was there that this gunman then entered the shopping mall and came up to one of the men and then opened fire. So some of the witnesses around there say that they heard about 3 shots that were fired quite close to each other, so it all happened quite quickly, and that's when absolute chaos broke out. Again, you know, it's not difficult for any of us to put ourselves in that situation and think about being at that mall and being in that relaxed state and then hearing gunfire in that confined area, and that's exactly what happened. But most interestingly, some of the witnesses that we spoke to say that after that, the man who was dressed in all black, and one of the car guards pointed out that he was wearing a hat similar to them, and I think the car guard meant that he was wearing one of those floppy hats, but a dark one. And he then ran out, went across the road and got into a car that was waiting for him. So it was really that easy for him to enter the mall, open fire, and then go out without being caught and then getting into that car. But we had an opportunity to speak to the SAPS earlier. It still is the very early stages of the investigation, but let's listen to what they had to tell us about what they know so far.
At approximately 10:45, there was a group of patrons in one of the restaurants at this mall. They were meeting for whatever reason, and a lone gunman then walked into the store, and as he got up to this group, he pulled out a firearm and he shot 2 of the members of the group. He then walked away, fled across the car park onto the road where a getaway vehicle was waiting for him. He got into the vehicle and he fled. At this stage, from what we can tell, is that the injured victims are 65 and 50. They've both been transported to hospital where we're told they're in a stable condition. At this stage, we have told that one of them is a business owner. He's in the construction industry, and the other is a taxi owner. According to the witnesses, nothing was taken. The man walked up to them, he opened fire on them, and then he fled.
Yeah, that certainly sounds like the shooter was very clear on who exactly they wanted to target. Of course, this happened in the middle of a busy mall in a coffee shop. It must have been chaos. I mean, just imagine the panic.
Lots of it, Sal, and again, in talking to some of the witnesses thereafter, there was a lot of confusion, a lot of anger, I think a lot of fear as well, just about, how easily this happened. And I say easily, just talking about how quickly the man moved in and out and opened fire. And many people that I've also spoken to, placing themselves in that situation, saying, but what if I was sitting there with my child, or what if I just happened to be in that vicinity? Although they may not have been the target, but it opens up all sorts of questions, and that's again what happened today. So lots of people there, particularly because it is the end of the month, but also because the festive season is approaching. So you would see that most of the malls have increased foot traffic, and the Queensburgh Mall was no different. And in fact, the car guards were saying that just before the shooting, that parking lot where we had parked, they were saying that parking lot was full. But obviously by the time we'd gotten there, it was cordoned off, it became a crime scene, and police were working in that area. We also spoke to one of the first responders. I spoke to a gentleman from ALS Paramedics. Let's listen to part of that interview now.
We found complete chaos here, pandemonium, people running around. We were trying to cordon off, we were trying to locate the patients. Eventually, once we managed to get through all this commotion, we managed to find the 2 patients lying still inside the store. And from there, we proceeded, obviously, to now stabilize those patients with that A-list intervention because both patients were very critical. They were inside the mall itself, very close to the entrance, and both basically lying about a metre and a half apart from each other.
And of course, Dasen, this is the very last thing a tourist area wants to see. It's the very last thing anyone wants to see, but certainly in the tourist areas, one that's been so battered as this region, they don't need any more reason for potential tourists to be afraid of going to the shops. I mean, we've seen this incident today. We know that there was an incident on the Umhlanga Promenade a couple of weeks ago. What are the concerns and perhaps measures being put in place to make sure that the malls are safe during this festive season, to make sure that these areas where tourists like to go are going to be safe?
You know, Sal, that was the exact question that I wanted to put to the centre management at the Queensburgh Mall, but unfortunately I didn't get that opportunity. Their phones went unanswered. I walked into the mall and I went up to the office where the centre supervisor is meant to be. Couldn't locate this person, understandably so, because it was quite a chaotic day. And I earlier, put out an appeal when I was talking to our colleague Dan Moyane, and I said, if the centre could reach out, these are some of the questions that we would want answered. We have seen in the past that there have been incidents like this, not just at this centre, at others around the city. It's not just as brazen as this, as being shootings, but there are also robberies. And criminals are particularly busy during this time, as are shoppers. And that's why those security measures are important. Police themselves, are based on the outside. They normally bolster their law enforcement during this period. This festive season will be no different. But again, it raises the question of what these malls are doing once you get inside their premises. So hopefully we will be able to engage with some of these centres and find out what will be in store for shoppers this festive season.
Yeah, very important. Thank you so much for that update. eNCA's Dasen Thathiah in Durban. Now still to